The complete work of Swami Vivekananda, Volume 1, Section 4, Steps of Hindu Philosophic Thought. If the first group of religious idea that we see coming up, I mean recognized religious idea and not the low ideas, which do not deserve the name of religion, all includes the idea of inspiration and revealed books and so forth. The first group of religious ideas starts with the idea of God. Here is the universe, and this universe is created by a certain being. Everything that is in this universe has been created by him. Along with that, at a later stage comes the idea of soul, that there is this body and something inside this body which is not the body. This is the most primitive idea of religion that we know. We can find a few followers of that in India, but in it was given up very early. The Indian religions take a peculiar start. It is only by strict analysis and much calculation and conjunction that we can ever think that the stage existed in Indian religion. The tangible state in which we find them in the next step, not the first. At the earlier step, the idea of creation is very peculiar, and it is that the whole universe is created out of zero at the will of God, and that all this universe did not exist, and now out of the nothingness all this has come. In the next stage, we find this conclusion is question. How can existence be produced out of non-existence? At the first step in the Vedanta, this question is asked. If this universe is existent, it must have come out of something, because it was very easy to see that nothing comes out of nothing anywhere. All work that is done by human hands requires materials. If the house is built, the material was existing. Therefore, if a boat is made, the material existed before. If any implement are made, the materials were existing before. So the effect is produced. Naturally, therefore, the first idea that this world was created out of nothing was rejected, and some material out of which this world was created was wanted. The whole history of religion, in fact, is this search after the material or after that material. Out of what has all this been produced? Apart from the questions of the efficient cause or God, apart from the question that God created the universe, the great question of all questions is out of what did He create it? All the philosophies are turning, as it were, on this question. One solution is that nature. God and soul are eternal existence, as if three lines are running parallel eternally, dependent, and God eternally, of which nature and soul comprises what they call the dependent, and God is independent reality. Every soul, like every particle of matter, is perfectly dependent on the will of God. Before going to the other steps, we will take up the idea of soul and then find that with all the Vedantic philosophers, there is one tremendous departure from all Western philosophy. All of them have a common psychology. Whatever their philosophy may have been, their psychology is the same in India, the old Sankhya psychology. According to this, perception occurs by the transmission of vibration, which first comes to the external sense organs, and from the external to the internal organs, and from internal organs to the mind, and from mind to the buddhi, and from buddhi or intellect to the something which is a unit, which then called the Atma. Coming to the modern philosophy, sorry, modern physiology. Coming to the modern physiology, we know that it has found centers for all the different sensations. First, it finds the lower center and then the higher grade of center. And then these two centers exactly correspond with the internal organ and the mind, but not one center has been found with the control of the other. So, physiology cannot tell you what unifies all these centers. Where do the centers get united? The centers in the brain are all different, and there is not one center which controls all the other centers. Therefore, so far as it goes, the Indian philosophy or Indian psychology stands unchallenged upon this point. We must have this unification, something upon which the sensation will be reflected to form a complete whole. Until there is that something, I cannot have any idea of you or a picture or anything else. If we had not that unifying something, we would only see, then after a while breath, then hear, and so on. And while I heard a man talking, or I would not see him at all, because all the center are different. This body is made of particles which we call material, and it is dull and insentient. So is what the Vedantists call the fine body. The fine body, according to them, is a material which transparent but material but transparent body made of very fine particles, so fine that no microscope can see them. What is use? What is the use of that? It is the spectacle of the fine forces. Just as this gross body is the spectacle of the gross forces, so is the fine body is a spectacle of fine forces, which we call thoughts in its various modification. First is the body, which is gross or matter with the gross force. Force cannot exist without matter. It must require some matter to exist. So the gross forces work in the body, and those very forces become finer, and the very forces which is working in the gross form work in the fine form and becomes thought. There is no distinction between them. Simply one is a gross and another is manifested as fine at the same time. Neither there any distinction between this fine body and the gross body. The fine body is also material, only very fine matter, just as this gross body is the instrument that works the gross forces. So the fine body is the instrument for the fine work of the fine forces. From where do all these forces come? According to the Vedant philosophy, there are two things in nature, one of which they call Akash, which is a substance, infinite, fine, and the other they call Pran, which is the force. Whatever you see or feel or hear as air or then anything in the matter is a matter, the production of Akash. It goes on and becomes finer and finer, grosser and grosser, changing under the action of Pran. Like Akash, Pran is omnipresent and interpenetrating everything. Akash is like the water, and everything else in the universe is like blocks of ice made out of water and floating in the water. And Pran is the power that charges this Akash into all these various forms. The gross body is the instrument made out of Akash for the manifestation of Pran in gross form, as that fine body is also made of Akash, a very fine form of the Akash for the manifestation of the same Pran in the finer form of the thoughts. So, first there is a gross body, beyond that is a fine body, and beyond that is Jiva, the real man. Just as the nails can be prepared of many times and yet are still part of our body, not different, so our gross body related to the fine. It is not that the man has a fine and also a gross body. It is the one body only. The part which endures longer in the fine body and that which dissolves sooner is the gross body. Just as I can cut this nail any time of millions of times, and I can shed this gross body, but the final body will remain. According to the dualistic, this jiva or the real man is very fine, minute. So far, we see that man is a being who has first a gross body which dissolves very quickly, then the fine body which remains through the aeons, and then a jiv. This jiv, according to the Vedan philosophy, is an eternal, just as God is eternal. Nature is also eternal, but changefully eternal. The material of nature, that is the prana and akash, is eternal, but it is changing into different forms eternally. But the Jeev is not manufactured either of Akash or Pran. It is immaterial and therefore will remain forever. It is not the result of the combination of Prana and Akash, and whatever is not the result of combination will never destroy, because destruction is going back to causes. The gross body is a compound of Akash and Pran, and therefore we will be decomposed. The fine body will also be decomposed after a long time, but the Jeev is simple and will never be destroyed. It was never born for the same reason. Nothing simple can be born. The same argument applies. That which is the compound only can be born. The whole of the nature, comprising millions and millions of souls, is under the will of God. God is all pervading, omniscient, formless, and he is walking through the nature day and night. The whole of it is under his control. He is the eternal ruler, so says the dualist. Then the question comes, if God is the ruler of this universe, why did he create such a wicked universe? Why must we suffer so much? They say it is not God's fault, it is our fault that we suffer. Whatever we sow, we reap. He did not do anything to punish him. Man is born poor or blind or some other ways. What is the reason? The Jeev has been existing for a long time. What never was never created. It was been doing all sort of things all the time. Whatever we do reacts upon us. If we do good, we shall have happiness. If evil, unhappiness. So Jeev does not enjoy, goes on enjoying and suffering and doing all sort of things. What comes after that? All these Vedant philosophers admit that this Shiv is by its own nature pure, but ignorance cover its natural real nature, they say, as by evil deeds, or it has covered itself with ignorance, so by good deeds it becomes conscious of its own nature again. Just as it is eternal, so its nature is pure. The nature is ever being is pure. Every being is pure. When through good deeds all its sin and misdeeds have been washed away, then the Jeev becomes pure again. And when it becomes pure, it goes to what is called as Devayan. Its organs of speech enters the mind. You cannot think without words. Wherever there is thought, there must be word. As words enter the mind, so the mind is resolved into the pran and the pran into jiv. Then the jiv gets quickly out of the body and goes to the solar region. This universe has spheres after spheres. This earth is the world sphere, in which one are moon, sun, and star. Beyond that, there is solar sphere, and beyond that, another which they call the lunar sphere. Beyond that, there is a sphere which they call the sphere of lightning, an electric sphere. And when the jiva goes there, there comes another jiva, already perfect to receive it and take it to another world, the highest heaven called the Brahmalok, where the Jeev lives eternally, no more to be born or dead. It enjoys through eternity and gets all sort of power except the power of creation. There is only one ruler of the universe, and that is God. No one can become God. The dualistic maintain that if you say you are God, It is a blasphemy. All powers except the creation comes to the Jeev, and if it likes to have bodies and work in different parts of the world, it can do so. If it orders all the gods to come before it, if it wants its forefathers to come, they all appear at its command. Such are its powers that it never feels any more pain, and if it want, it can live in Brahmalok through all eternity. This is the highest man who has attained the love of God, who has become perfect, unselfish, perfectly pure, who has given up all desires, and who does not want to do anything except worship and love God. There are others that are not so high, who do good works but want some rewards. They say they will give so much to poor but want to go to heaven in return. When they die, what becomes of them? The speech enters the mind enters the pran enters the jeev, and the jeev gets out and goes to the lunar sphere where it has good times for a long period. There is enjoying happiness as long as the effect of its good deeds endures. When the same is exhausted, it descends and once again enters life on the earth according to its desire. In the lunar sphere, the Jeev becomes what we call a god, or what the Christian or Mohammedan call an angel. These gods are the names of certain positions. For instance, Indra, the king of God. In the name of position, thousands of men get to that position. What when a virtuous man who has performed the highest of Vedic rites dies, he becomes a king of gods. By that time, the old king has gone down again and becomes man. Just as king change here, so the god, the devas, have also so the god, the devas also have to die. In heaven they will all die, and only deathless place is Brahmalok, where alone there is no birth and death. So the Jivas go to heaven and have a very good time, except now and then when the demons give the chase. Our mythology, it is said that there are demons who sometimes trouble the gods. In all mythologies, you read how these demons and gods fought, and the demon sometimes conquers the god, although many times it seems the demon did not do so many wicked things to as the gods. In all mythologies, for instance, you find that devas found a woman, fond of woman. So after their reward is finished, they fall down again, come through the clouds, through the rain, and thus get into the grain and or plant and find their way into the human body. When the grain or plant is eaten by man, the Father gives them the material out of which to get the fitting body. When the material suits them no longer, they have to manufacture their bodies. The other bodies. Now there are the very wicked fellows who do all sort of diabolic things. They are born again as animals, and if they are very bad, they are born very low animals and become plants or stones. In the deva forms, they make no karma at all. Only man makes karma. Karma means work which will produce effect. When a man dies and becomes a dev, he has only a period of pleasure, and during the time make no fresh karma. It is simply a reward for his past good karmas. When the good karma is worked out, then the remaining karmas begin to take effect, and he comes down to earth. He becomes man again, and if he does very good work and purifies himself, then he goes to Brahmalok and comes back no more. The animal in a state of sojourn for the jiva involves involving from the lower form. In course of time, the animals become men. It is significant fact that as the human population is increasing, the animal population is decreasing. The animal soul are all becoming men. So many species of animals have become men already. Where else have they gone? In the Vedas, there is no mention of hell, but our Puranas, the later books of our scriptures, thought that no religion could be complete unless hell were attached to the to it, and so they invented all sort of hells. In some of these, men are sawed in half and continuously tortured but do not die. They are continuously feeling intense pain, but the book are merciful enough to say it is only for a period. Bad karma is worked out in the state and then they come back to on earth and get more chance. So this human from its form is the great chance. It is called the karma body in which we decide our fate. We are running in a huge circle and this is the point in the circle which determines the future. So, this is considered the most important form that there is man is greater than the gods. So far, with dualism, pure and impure, pure and simple. Next comes the higher Vedantic philosophy, which says that this cannot be. God is both the material and the efficient cause of this universe. If you say there is God who is infinite being and the soul which is also infinite and a nature which is also infinite, you can go on multiplying effective without limit, which is simply ab- absurd. So you smash all logic. So so God is both the material and the efficient cause of the universe. He projects this universe out of himself. Then how is it that God has become these walls and this table? That God has become the pig and the murderer and all the evil things in the world. We say that God is pure. How can he become all these degenerate things? Our answer is just as I am a soul and I have a body in a sense this body is not different from me. Yet I the real I, in fact, I am not the body. For instance, I say I am a child, a young man, or an old man, but my soul has not changed. It remains the same soul. Similarly, the whole universe comprising all nature and an infinite number of souls is as it were the infinite body of God. He is interpreting the whole of it. He alone is unchangeable, but nature changes and soul changes. He is unaffected by changes in nature and soul. In what way does nature change? In its form, and it takes fresh forms. But the soul cannot change the way. The soul contracts and expands in knowledge. It contracts by the evil deeds. Those deeds which contract the real nature, natural knowledge, and purity of the soul are called evil deeds. Those deeds again which bring out the natural glory of the soul are called as good deeds. All these souls were pure, but they have become contracted through the mercy of God, and by doing good deeds, they will expand and cover their natural purity. Everyone has the same chance and in long run must get out. But this universe will not cease because it is eternal. This is the second theory. The first is called dualism. The second holds that there are God, soul, and nature. The soul and nature form of the body of God, and therefore these three form one unit. It represents a higher stage of religious development and goes by the name of qualified monism. In dualism, the universe is conceived as a large machine set going by God, while in qualified monism it is convinced as an organism interpenetrated by the divine self. The last are the non-dualistic. They raise the question also the God must be both the material and efficient cause of the universe. As such, God has become the whole of this universe and there is no going against it. And when these other people say that God is the soul and the universe is the body, The body is changing, but God is changeless. The non dualists say all this is nonsense. In that case, what is the use of calling God the material cause of the universe? The material cause is the cause become effect, and the effect is nothing but the cause in another form. Wherever you see an effect, it is the cause reproduced. If the universe is the effect, the God, and God the cause, it must be reproduced of God or reproduction of God. If you say that the universe is the body of God, and that the body becomes contracted and fine and becomes a cause, and out of that the universe is evolved. The non-dualistic say that the God himself who has become this universe. Now comes a very fine question. If God has become this universe, you and all these things are God. Certainly, this book is God. Everything is God. My body is God. My mind is God. My soul is God. Then what? Why are there so many jivas? Has God becomes divided into millions of jivas? Does that one God becomes or turns into millions of jivas? Then how did it become so? How can that infinite power and substance, the one being of the universe, becomes divided? It is impossible to divide infinity. How can the pure being become the universe? If he has become the universe, he is changeful. And if he is changeful, he is a part of nature, and whatever is nature and changeful is born and dies. If a God is changeful, he must die someday. Take note of that. Again, how much of God has become this universe? If you say X, the unknown algebraical quality, then the God is God minus X now, and therefore not the same God as before this creation become, because so much has become this universe. So the non-dualistic say the universe does not exist at all. It is all illusion. Okay. The whole of this universe, these devas, gods, angels, and all the other beings born and dying, all this infinite number of souls coming up and going down, all are dreams. There is no jiva at all. How can there be many? It is only infinite, as the one sun reflects on the various species of water, appears to be many, and millions of globes of the water reflect so many millions of sun, and in each globe will be perfect image of the sun, yet there is only one sun. So all are these jeev, but reflection of the different minds. These different minds are like so many different globes reflecting this one being. God is being reflected in all these different jivas, but a dream cannot be without a reality, and that reality is that one infinite existence. You as body, mind, or soul are a dream, but what you really are is existence, knowledge, and bliss. You are God of this universe. You are creating that this whole universe and drawing it in. Thus says the Advait. So all these birth and rebirth, coming and going, are the figments of Maya. You are infinite. Where are you? Where can you go? The sun, the moon, and the whole universe are but drops of in your transcendent nature. How can you be born or dead? I never was born, never will be born. I never had father or absolute, bliss absolute. I am he. So, what is goal according to this philosophy? That those who receive this knowledge are one with the universe. For them, all heaven, even Brahmalok, are destroyed, and the whole dream vanishes, and they find him themselves the eternal God of the universe. They attain their real individuality with its infinite knowledge and bliss, and become free. Pleasure is little thing sees, thing sees. We are finding pleasure in the little body, in this little individual. How much great the pleasure when this whole universe is my body. If there is pleasure in one body, how much more when all bodies are mine. Then is freedom attained, and this is Advait, the non-dualistic Vedant philosophy. These are the three steps which Advait philosophy has taken, and we cannot go any further because we cannot go beyond unity. When a science reaches unity, it cannot be by any matter of means go any further. You cannot go beyond this idea of the absolute. All people there cannot take up with this Advait philosophy. It is hard. First of all, it is very hard to understand its intellectually. It requires the sharpest of the intellect, a bold understanding. Secondly, it does not suit the vast majority of people. So there are these three steps. Begin with the first one. Then, by thinking of that and understanding it, the second will open itself. Just as a race advances, so individual has to advance. The steps which a human race has taken to reach the highest pinnacles of religion's thoughts, every individual will have to take. Only while the human race took millions of years to reach from one step to another. Individuals may live the whole life of the human race in much shorter duration, but each one of us will have to go through these steps. Those of you who are non-dualistic, look back at the period of your lives when you were strong dualistic. As soon as you think you are a body or a mind, and you will have to take the whole of this dream. If you take one portion, you must take the whole. The man who says, "Here is this world and there is no personal God," is a fool, because if there is a world, there will have to be cause, and that is what is called God. You cannot have an effect without knowing that there is a cause. God will only vanish when this world vanishes. Then you will become God, absolute, and this world will be no longer for you. As so long as the dream that you are a body exists, but as soon as that dream vanishes, so will the dream vanish that you are being born and dying, and so will the other dream that there is universal vanish or universe vanish. That very very thing which we know or now see as the universe will appear to us as God, that is absolute, and that very God who has so long been external will appear to be internal as our own self.